How come nobody put Harlem on 40s?
Kev Mac video. You know, this is for sure. Kev Mac video. Open your soul, represent your ghetto, baby. Kev Mac video. You know, this is for sure. Kev Mac video. Open your soul, represent your ghetto, baby. For the dime moves and the lokes, for the 6-4s on spokes, for the OGs that did a dime, came back around on parole. For the homegirls with the scrap game, Lil' homies that gang bang, from Pelican Bay to YA, rearrange your mind frame. Yeah, I know what you've been through, shit you had to go tend to. Your mama gave birth on the turf.
I was the founder. I created Conan Pocket in my mother's garage.
I had a lot of, lifting weights, and I was on swole. They start calling me Big Miz.
Original Stutter Box, Eastside Fighters, Pablo Bishop, Mill City Gangsta Bloods.
Kev Mac video. You know, this is for sure. Kev Mac video. Open your soul.
This is
the
beat.
You get what I'm saying? Harlem 40s, like Harlem 30s, Harlem 40s.
The way that I would answer that is this: no co-opting first name.
Okay.
You can't, we're not for that. The spread of that
Okay.
you can be this, or you can have your independence and do what you do.
Okay, later on, when you start hearing Dinker Park 30 Aves, 39th, you got 30 Aves. Now when the 40s come into play, you got 40 Aves. Was that strategic or was that just by chance?
I'm gonna say happenstance. I don't think because we're all truly enough, we're all fruit from a poison tree. So to add a tactical and a strategical mindset to it would mean that we could somehow envision that our growth would be to the depth that it is and have some degree of control of it. But it's obvious that we don't have a degree of control over that because none of us know each other outside the blocks that we move around in now. Individual might live on 41st and not know who lives on 45th. So for my era, because we all really grew up together, we all really hung out together, we did things together, we had fun together, we literally all knew each other. First name and last name, some of us. I mean, some of our mamas hung around each other, so it was more of a family, if you can put that title on it. It was more of a familiar connection than we just from the same community. We just from we're from the same area. It was deeper than that.
Would it be fair to use this analogy that somewhat what you're saying is you have a bunch of wild teenagers that just start something and it just catches on?
Yeah. That's what I'm but see, here's what I'm saying. We go back to the fruit of a poison tree. Mm-hmm. The origin of all this is a bunch of wild teenagers that's planted that seed. And to me, I always had this conversation with folks that the little homies have always run the hood. That even though there are generations of and everybody has like achieved this chronological growth, that some of us, some individuals who are former gang members or participating gang members or in their 50s and 60s. Truth be told, this thing was started in backyards, alleys, parks by teenagers, and it never matured past that mindset. That's why we're still caught up, grown-ups behaving like teenagers.
You went to prison in 94 on a 3-strike case.
Yeah.
And you got out when?
2015.
So if my math is correct, that's 21 years.
Plus years. Let me get my plus. I need my plus.
Okay.
Because it was a long time.
21 plus.
Yeah.
Because you had to get child hire and all that, them extra days.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, what was it like coming back to the community after 21 plus years?
At this, all humility aside, for me, it was easy. And the reason for me why it was easy, because I underwent the transformation necessary to be able to make this adjustment this time. Because as I told you, I did 8 years the first time. So doing that 8 years, I didn't learn how to do anything but be worse than I was when I went in there. So when I went back for the first 7, 8, 9 years, I was still my awful self. I was still engaging in every behavior that was identified, that I would identify at this point as being sociopathic. I was just about me. I was being selfish. I was hustling. I was doing whatever. And then at a juncture within, I had an epiphany moment that transformation was necessary. That if I ever did gain my freedom, that I needed a new person. I needed to be a new person. And the only way I was going to get my freedom is I had to become a new person in prison. So, through self-analyzation, I went inside myself and tried to address the things in me that were broken. What was my dysfunction? How did I become the person that I became? Why did I live the life that I lived? Why did I impact individuals in the manner that I did? And how does that affect me now? And who do I need to be if I want to be as influential going back in 2015 as I was when I left in 94, as I was when I left in 92, as I was when I went to camp in 1978? If I wanted to be that same individual that can convince folks to do stuff, but this time to do stuff the right way, then I had to be the shining example of. And what better way to do that than to make transformation in a place where they say you can't do it? Individuals say that I couldn't do what I did in prison, that I couldn't change in prison. The way most feel is like you can't reach a level of influence that I did in prison and get out without getting stabbed up, without getting killed, without getting whatever, especially if you was engaging in the kind of prison politics that I was. But because I made that transformation and showed individuals that it was possible, that you didn't have to be the person that put on a mask when you were a little kid and the mask owned you and resulted in you living the life that you did, that you didn't have to be that, folks started to respect it. There were individuals who thought they were my sworn enemies because of conversations we had or things that I've done that was like, man, I really can appreciate what you've done with yourself. We need somebody like you to be the voice for us when you get free, and that's why I do what I do now.
If you had to throw a percentage out there, what percentage of inmates do you think got worse by going to do time in prison, like when you did your 8 years?
90%.
And CDC, California Department of Corrections, threw an R on the end.
Yeah.
What was that all about? Do they rehabilitate?
Not
inmates?
at all. There's no rehabilitation available in the California Department of Rehabilitation unless it's done on an individual basis. If you don't do it for yourself, it won't be done. Yeah, they'll put you in school and you'll get the fundamentals of how not to learn. Because you can just go sit in class and play dominoes or pinochle or whatever. It's just about being present. There's no education taking place. The education has to be among self. What we had to do. Individuals like myself who felt like there was a need for change, we used to have to mask our educational classes under a religious banner and say that we were going to religious practices, and then within the religious practices, after the religious part of it was over, we would do financial literacy, we would do math, we would do creative writing, we would do social skills, we would do basic life skills, we would do the stuff that makes it possible for an individual to do time and get out here and walk the walk with the ability to blend in instead of stick out, where somebody can look at you and say like, oh, that dude must have just got out. Look how he move around, to develop a comfortability.
Did you learn how to write or speak Arabic while you were in there?
No.
No Swahili?
From the 80s, I learned it, but with Swahili, it's use it or lose it.
Was it a shock to you when you came back to the neighborhood and seen the racial makeup changing?
No, it wasn't a shock. It was a validation. I knew the complexion of the community had changed, and I wasn't surprised because, I mean, growing up in that era, you can see the changes taking place back then. You could see like the growth and the expansion of the Hispanic community, and know that if you didn't keep like track with it, that you would lose sight of it. And then you have an era in the 90s where everybody was able to like populate their communities because the ill-gotten gains were so plentiful and we could all take care of our families with stuff that was killing the community at the same time. It was an inevitability.
Are you aware of the Japanese that live behind the post office on 39th?
Oh, yeah, that's always been Asian. The avenue, that part of the avenues after like 7th Ave to like Crenshaw has always been Asian community.
Do you know what landed them there?
I believe after World War II.
The government.
Yep, after World War II and the red lining of areas. Yeah, the red lining of areas, and that's an area that they could only live. They were isolated and couldn't get loans to live anywhere else, and that's where they end up being.
Did you know some of them claim Crip?
Yeah.
You did know that?
Yeah.
Nobody's ever talked about that publicly.
I don't know their history, but there are quite a few Asian gangs now in this era that's Crips. Mm-hmm. We just aren't aware of it, and we don't have a relationship with them. But I've just from being in prison and having conversations with individuals that don't look like me to discover like, oh, yeah, I'm from such and such. And there's an Asian blood gang or an Asian Crip gang.
So you know what? Before we get back to life after prison, during your prison stay, did you see the transformation from the SOS, the Samoans claiming Crip, to no longer claiming Crip?
Oh, yeah.
So Asians was in the black car, Crip car?
They went either or. Okay. They either went non-affiliate, they stayed Crips, or they crossed over to the Hispanic community. But that's just, because those were the power bases. It was black, white, Hispanic. So the others, back, in the 80s, it was how many prisons in the 80s? 13 prisons in the 80s. It might have been like 50 Asians in the whole prison system. So you got one Asian at each prison, you're going to choose.
Right.
You're going to either run with the Woods, you're going to click up and become a Chino with the Hispanics, or you're going to be Jap with the homies. No disrespect intended.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm just talking about what you know.
Yeah. So, now that you home, back into society, you're not doing the same things that landed you back in prison. So, what are you up to now?
I currently work for this employed with this faith-based organization, LA Voice. I do community empowerment, community reunification, voter registration, voter education, and civic education. And what that really means is I teach and tell individuals, and this is my chosen lane because it's the lane I moved around in for so long. I teach and tell individuals who think they don't have the right to vote because they've had consequential contact with the criminal justice system, meaning that they've been in jail and got a felony. I let them know that you do have the right to vote, that you don't lose your right to vote forever. The only time your right to vote is lost is when you've been convicted of a felony and sentenced to prison. And for those of y'all who've seen that movie, The 13th, that's the only time in the United States is that you can be a slave, and it's attached to the voting piece. California is so liberal, though. Once you off parole, your right to vote is instilled. All you have to do is register to vote. Not only that, if you are currently on probation, state or federal, you still maintain your right to vote. All you have to do is register. And what the population, this diffused community that is not connected, which they refer to as the system impacted community, together in the numbers that you own, if you get civically educated and register to vote and vote in terms of your best interests, your individual interests, your community interests, and not because a politician has swayed you to vote for them, you have the power to change the complexion of the community that you come from on the city level, on the county level, and on the state level. And it's independent, it's no inconvenience, and don't cost a dime.
What made you want to get into that?
Actually, I was into it before I got free. That's one of the things I came proficient at when I was in prison. But it was prison politics and not real politics. So I knew how to organize individuals in prison to do dirty work. I knew how to traffic in information when I was in prison, which was letting individuals know what the police knew. Let them know what they was looking for. Let them know what and who they needed to be in order to manipulate the systems that were oppressing us. I knew how to do the prison paperwork and to take action to change the practice and policies in prison. So all I'm doing out here legitimately is what they used to lock me up for in prison.